What's on your radar, Ryan?
Well, now that it's January, that means the fourth quarter fundraising period for candidates is over, and we're going to start seeing numbers released that'll give some indication of where the most competitive races are going to be. One of them is pretty surprising, and that's in the 4th District of Minnesota, where Representative Betty McCollum has been serving since winning there in the year 2000. So if you've heard of McCollum, you probably either love her or hate her, as she's been for years the member of Congress associated for the longest time with the issue of Palestinian rights. But more likely, you've never heard of her. The challenge to her is interesting because it'll be a window into how Democratic voters are viewing the election in 2022, whether as a moment to push forward with an outspoken and unapologetic brand of progressivism and continue the fight for control of the party, or focus instead more on defending against surging Republican energy, which threatens to seize the House and Senate. Her challenger is activist and operative Amani Badasso. And in the fourth quarter of last year, her campaign told me she raised $308,000. That's a very big haul for the first quarter for a first-time challenger. So her argument is that McCollum has been a strong voice on Palestine, yes, and has voted the right way on other issues, yes, but the district needs somebody who's more of a fighter across the board and someone in touch with her working class roots.
I grew up much of my life in severe poverty, but it is Minnesota that gave me a home, opportunity, and access to the American dream. And as an organizer, I know that we, for the first time ever, need working class leadership for working class people. And I ran for Congress because that is exactly what I am offering my district.
She told me, quote, "Here in the progressive movement, we have to think about what Democrat actually means beyond just who votes along a certain line. Frankly, we need a leadership that just gives a damn about folks in the community," unquote. McCollum's bet is that voters are in no mood for an intra-party contest this cycle. Bill Harper, McCollum's chief of staff, told me this campaign in 2022 is squarely focused on stopping Republicans from taking the majority and continuing progressive leadership in Congress. We're looking at the mob being invited into the Capitol and at the table. Change just simply for change's sake is just shuffling the deck chairs. In Congress, seniority matters. The question I have to ask is, why would progressives want to throw away 22 years of seniority? So McCollum will also lean into her record fighting for Palestinian rights, as she highlights here.
I'm the author of legislation H.R. 4391, the Promoting Human Rights by Ending Military Detention of Palestinian Children Act. Israel's abuse system of military detention of Palestinian children violates international law. Like all children, Palestinian children must be treated with dignity and respect. Hundreds of Palestinian children are suffering in Israeli military detention right now, and they should be released immediately. Together, let's continue to send a strong message that human rights matter to the lives of children in Palestine and all around the world.
So Badasso fled Ethiopia at the age of 4 and spent the next several years as a refugee in Kenya, much like Ilhan Omar did before coming to Minnesota. Badasso got here when she was 13 and has become a fixture of the Twin Cities activist left. She was a senior leader at Take Action Minnesota, which played a leading role in pushing the ballot measure that would have ended the Minneapolis Police Department, and it would have replaced it with a Department of Public Safety. That measure was blown out 56 to 44%. McCollum didn't take a position either way on the question, but did express openness to the idea, saying in June 2020, the Minneapolis City Council is free to defund or abolish its police department or ask to have federal cops funding terminated. That will be their decision to make. So Ilhan Omar and Badasso have been allies for a very long time, but Omar hasn't endorsed either way in the race. However, she did offer a comment lauding Badasso. She told me, quote, "She truly is one of the most impressive people I've ever met. She is incredible, and I have never met anyone who disagrees in the decade I have known her." So beyond Palestine, McCollum has largely kept a low profile and has declined to join the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Even her Mideast activism has failed to draw much national attention. That recent profile of her in HuffPost was subheadlined, "St. Paul's Betty McCollum is radically progressive on U.S. policy toward Israel. Why don't you ever hear about it?" Though she aligns on many issues with Omar, the two have at times had a frosty relationship. That same HuffPost profile reported that, quote, "At times McCollum has seemed visibly annoyed with Omar and the controversies that surround her." When Omar was in the barrel over remarks in 2019 that critics deemed anti-Semitic, McCollum issued a statement saying Representative Omar has the right to speak freely, and she also must take responsibility for the effect her words have on her colleagues, her constituents, and the policies Democrats seek to advance. Her chief of staff, Bill Harper, went further, telling HuffPost, "My own take on it is that she really derailed a lot of our work." Harper told me that McCollum is taking the challenge seriously and is unwilling to cede the mantle of progressivism to her. Quote, "She's the most progressive member of the Minnesota delegation," Harper said of McCollum. I asked if that ranking included Omar, and he said that it did, citing McCollum's vote for the major infrastructure bill in November, which Omar opposed. Omar, for what it's worth, opposed voting on the bill until the Senate had fully committed to also passing the Build Back Better Act. McCollum does indeed seem to be taking the challenge quite seriously. After I reached out to her team for comment, and Robbie, you'll like this, McCollum took the piece of news I was asking her to comment on and shared it with a wide circle of Minnesota elected officials and power brokers, writing, quote, "Friends, earlier today, my campaign received a call from a reporter asking for a comment. He said my DFL opponent has raised over $300,000 in the past 3 months in her effort to defeat me. The reporter also said my opponent could not articulate any issues or votes in which she disagrees with me, but she's running to bring, quote, new energy to the district. Energy is important," she went on, "but my energy is focused on governing and chairing the largest and most powerful appropriations subcommittee in Congress." Now, Minnesota's Byzantine primary system gives Badasso at least 2 shots at McCollum. The first will come in February at a caucus where 400 delegates will be selected to then vote at a later convention on who will go into the primary with the DFL endorsement. The officially endorsed candidate nearly always wins the primary, but ultimately voters will decide the Democratic nominee at what is likely to be a very low turnout affair in August. And so, Robbie, I'd classify that as a misdemeanor in the violation of the protocol between. It's not exactly a felony, but when you call a campaign or you call an office for comment on news that you have that's exclusive, the kind of rule is you don't then just shop that out and share it publicly.
This is
am
why.
Am I wrong here?
No, you're absolutely right. This is why we now give. This is official Robbie procedure. You give the person about 23 seconds to respond to a request for comment.
That is the problem, because you want to give people as much time to think about how they want to comment as possible.
And then they lie to you and they say, "Oh, I'll get you something," and they're working to undermine whatever work you are doing. Right. That's why they get 23 seconds. Or or you ask at 11:59 and the story goes live at 12:01.
So-and-so did not immediately respond to a request.
Immediately, I love, yes. Oh, whenever now I am seen.
Yeah, whenever you see immediate in an article, you know that the reporter hits send on the request for comment.
Could not immediately be reached for comment.
And then they hit publish.
Yep.
Hit publish.
Those are our dirty tricks.
So, but that aside, it'll be interesting to see how much appetite Democrats have for a contest like this, or whether they're just completely focused on defending, what little they have in retreat. I know you're not a huge watcher of Democratic primaries, but if you had to psychoanalyze
the DFL,
them,
I'm so into everything they're doing. I'm just lifelong.
I love the DFL. It's for people who don't know. It's a Democratic Farmer Labor Party,
right.
which is basically an outgrowth of the Minnesota populist movement of farmers and workers in the late 1800s that evolved into what is today the DFL. In 1896, when in the person of Williams Jennings Bryan, the Populist Party and the Democratic Party basically fused. With a bunch of people stayed in the Populist Party, but the Populist Party
free silver.
Exactly. They nominated William Jennings Bryan as both the Populist candidate and the Democratic candidate, and that kind of ended the Populist energy and infused it into the Democratic Party. And Minnesota ended up becoming the DFL party. So it still has all these vestiges of these conventions and caucuses. You go to a caucus, then the caucus goes to a convention, then the convention endorses, and then you still have a primary. But if you're the person that has the DFL name, you're probably going to win, but I don't know.
I thought it was so that statement that McCollum made about Ilhan Omar. So that was during the when Omar was in trouble for that was the all about the Benjamins things. Yeah, because there was a couple controversies, and that one. Yeah, she shouldn't have said that. There was another thing. She
herself apologized.
There was another thing she got in trouble for that was unfair. that was, I remember covering that one. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Speaking at CARE, and something was taken out of context at CARE.
Yeah. It was, and that was totally, that was an unfair cutting of the clip that then everyone pounced all over her for.
Right.
So if that statement had been in response to that,
no, it was the other one.
It was the other one.
But it is interesting to me that that Omar issued a comment talking about, she's not endorsing Badasso in this race. Endorsing a primary challenger to the person who serves with you in the Twin Cities would be, a nuclear step. But issuing a statement that, talking about how long you've known her and what a good person she is, I'm sure will be received by the McCollum campaign as less than helpful.
Wow,
this should be interesting.
It's good fight. All right, Team Rising joins us next. Stick around for that.